Welcome to The Brain Dump, where we study the psychology of success. Join us as we probe the habits, rituals, and routines of top-performing artists, entrepreneurs, authors, athletes, and more to uncover the timeless principles we can all use to take our lives to the next level. Are you ready to plunge the grunge that's been gunking up your mind's eye? Great, then let's get to it.
Guys, welcome to the Brain Dump. Austin, Anthony, we'll get all the pleasantries out the way. It doesn't matter because what we're going to talk today about...
Get out of here. We're not pleasant.
Get out of here.
Go.
So what we're going to talk today is scaling. Scaling in your business, putting systems around your personal brand, your life, because I know that you and I are both in the midst of transitioning right now, bringing on some employees. And I think there's a lot of... let's just call it what it is. It's scary. It really is. Like having to think of what my assistant's going to do because I'm so inside my business. Literally, I think I could run a marathon easier than I could bring on an assistant. Like it scares me to death. Am I the only one?
No, absolutely not. Because one is, all the things that you're already currently juggling, and the fear of entrusting somebody else to do something that you can almost guarantee they're not going to do it as well as you to start with, maybe someday, but it's going to take a long time. And the learning curve is pretty steep. And so I think it's natural. One, because when you bring on an assistant, I was talking to somebody else about this the other day, actually, because they're like, should I bring on an assistant? And I was like, well, let's think about this, because really what the assistant's job is to do is to free up your two most valuable assets, your time and your attention. And that's great in theory, but you have to train them, not just in like the technical aspects of the task, because that's actually really simple. You have to train them in the decision-making process and the values and the lens through which you want them to make decisions on your behalf. And that's like through the lens of an assistant, which maybe isn't super applicable to everybody listening to this, but it's the same for all your employees. And this is like with our manufacturing company, we have over 20 employees, and each time it's teaching the technical tasks is very, very simple, but there's a lot of gray, even in a job that's as solidified and systematized as take this widget, put it here, do this with it, and then take it there. There's still a whole lot of gray area that a human has to express judgment. And teaching this is like super timely. Literally, I just wrote a blog post about judgment is the superpower. And it's one of those things you cannot teach judgment, but you can hopefully hold up the lenses through which you want people to filter their decisions through, whether or not they do it successfully. That's a whole other thing.
Here's the deal. Well, here's the scary thing. You have to give them enough rope to learn, but you also need them to understand judgment. It's such a slippery slope because you're saying, I trust you, but I kind of don't trust you. I need you to make a decision for me, but I need to give you enough rope to make the mistakes. It's such a dichotomy between back and forth.
Here's the thing is I'm a firm believer that you have to fail your way to success, right? Micro failures, pivoting really quickly, learning from that, and not being afraid to take action for fear of the consequence. That's the biggest stifling constraint to growth. So you need everybody to know that they're in a safe place to make decisions and possibly fuck up. And so here's how I look at it. And this is the conversation I have with all new hires is I'm never going to put you in a position where if you were to fail, it is going to cause a mortality event for the company. I'm never going to put you in a position to fail so that it could kill us all. Mm-hmm. So if I give you something, it means it's okay ultimately to mess it up. Mm-hmm. If it's not perfect, if you do fail, it's not going to end everything. So then that makes it so that I don't hand you things that can end the company, right? That I keep those to myself. And as you get better and better, that actually starts to move a little bit, like the things that could end the company versus not. And so as you get more capacity, the things I will entrust you with gets higher and higher. But that helps, I think, people when they're first starting to go, okay, if Anthony has given me this task and it's not perfect, he expects it's not going to be perfect. Mm-hmm. And it's okay if I fail on this. And I had to have this conversation yesterday with an employee, which is done is better than none. At the end of the day, the only thing I don't find acceptable is that you didn't even try. Yep. If you were so afraid to start because you wanted it to be perfect that you never even got started, that's the only thing that's completely unacceptable to me. If you try and you fail, well, God bless your nippers. At least you did something.
And at the end of the day, it's interesting. When D started working for me, I remember I just talked about this on a podcast the other day. He was like, hey, I've got to go take my girlfriend somewhere at 3:30. Is it okay if I, go at 3:30? And I said, let me ask you a couple questions. Did I ever give you a time that you have to clock in? Did I ever tell you, no, I gave you certain tasks. If they're completed at 5 a.m. or 10 o'clock at night or Tuesday or Wednesday, it doesn't matter to me. I'm giving you the responsibility and the freedom to create your own schedule and create your own workflow. And he was like, wow, this is really awesome. And I was like, yeah, there's a timeline on certain things, but ultimately you have the opportunity to fail your way and show up for yourself over and over again. And I agree with you 100%. It's if I knew what to do, then I wouldn't need you. That's what I love to tell them. If I knew how to be more efficient in my calendar, then I wouldn't need you to help me. Right. But if you can show me aspects of my life where we can button some things up with technology or organization, then you become a very valuable asset, right? Which, to be honest with you, the sky's the limit.
Mm-hmm. This might be a helpful framework because when we're talking about letting your employees fail and having that expectation that they're going to not maybe meet your expectations, you also have to be cool with the fact that they're going to disappoint you, right? Mm-hmm. So you can't flip the script and be like, I expected you to fail, but God, this is horrible. You're done. Mm-hmm. You can't do that. So
caught myself doing that. Too. Yeah, I did that.
You got to be careful. Yeah, people do that, and it's that's not fair. If you're gonna give people a safe place to fail and to grow, it has to be genuinely a safe place to fail and to grow. Now, there's two types of errors I like to point out to all new hires so that they can get this dichotomy straight in their mind when it comes to failing, and those are judgment errors and execution errors. A judgment error is you made the right call with the information that you had, and it didn't break the way you thought it would, but your judgment was sound in how you came to the decision. This is Charlie Munger saying, listen, I don't care about the outcome. I care about the process that went into the outcome. Just because you played Russian roulette, put the gun to your head, pulled the trigger, and it didn't go off, doesn't mean that it was a good decision just because the outcome wasn't. Now you're dead, right? So separating those two, recognize that if the decision-making process was good and you can justify that, then, judgment errors are going to happen. Now, execution errors are, we know what to do. We made the right judgment call. We just didn't execute it. And that's only ever acceptable once. If you can't execute it the first time, then you need to learn and pivot and grow and then try again. And if you make the same execution error twice, well, that's unacceptable. I expect that you will always make new, more interesting mistakes. Never the same mistake twice.
Because it's interesting, right? You're juggling multiple businesses, you're juggling, podcasts and book writing. If I can't rely on you to at least get the task done, well, then now I've taken my focus off of everything that I'm doing. Right. And I can't operate. So when I put trust in you, I'm going to give you the rope, but you also got to execute on it. It's the same thing. I interviewed a tax guy today. I said, I don't want to know about this, nor do I care. But if I hired you and you didn't execute on what you're doing, you best believe you're going to get fired real quick. I'm giving you the money, I'm giving you the time, the rope but you better show up. And there's a lot of things you can forgive when you're scaling, because there are going to be mistakes as the business gets bigger. But what I can't forgive is not doing it at all. That's just not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. For me, when I delegate, and this is something that is maybe unique to me, and some people aren't as good at this. I'm not saying this is a good thing, but this is how I operate, is when I delegate and I hand something off, it is literally outside of my brain. And it no longer has any mental space in my brain. Mm-hmm. Because if you're on my team and I've handed you something, it's because I trust you to dunk it.
Yep.
I don't need to follow up. I don't need to be there to rebound. I pass the ball. You're going to dunk it. I'm already turned around running back to go play defense on the next play. And if I pass you the ball and you consistently don't dunk it, I'm going to stop passing you the ball. I'm going to go for the hard three, and I'm going to live with the consequences. Either I make it or I don't. But as soon as I stop passing it to you, well, maybe not a lot of use for you on the team anymore.
Dude, this is me too. When I delegate, I'm done, man, because I'm on to the next thing. Like, I am so done. Like, I almost forgot what I gave you in the first place. Like, seriously. But what's interesting is, right, because I'm reading Naval again right now. He was talking about one of the ways to get ahead is to take on personal responsibility under your name, right?
And so the brand.
And so that's you as an employee taking personal responsibility under you. And when you become more valuable to the team, you get paid more and you get more opportunities to shoot the three.
Yeah, that's the position that you want to be in. Is eventually, you're getting the ball passed to you, and we don't expect you to dunk it. Now we're like, you go do it. You shoot from wherever you want. You're an all-star. Mm-hmm. And honestly, that's how I like to hire. Is I only like to bring on people into the team that I think are all-stars. I don't have because what it is I'm really bad at training. I'm really bad at holding people accountable, and I'm really bad in following up with people. That's just a unique thing about my mind. And so I understand that the only way I can thrive on a team is if I can operate as much in a silo as possible still within that team, which means when things get handed off, I have full confidence that they will get done. Now, with that said, a week ago, I woke up in the middle of the night. I was like, oh my God, those 5 things I handed off. I wonder where they're at. So sometimes these things do catch up with me, and I have to follow up with it in the morning. And I'm like, okay, we're either A, good to go, or B, holy crap, there was a reason my subconscious woke me up in the middle of the night. And usually I'm going to give you guys a little insight. If my subconscious is waking me up in the middle of the night to follow up on a task I gave you, it doesn't look good for you.
Doesn't look good.
It probably doesn't look good.
But here's something I want to share from a tactical point of view, from a hire of said employees while you're scaling. I'm in the process of building out my legacy company, and I have been strategically, intentionally tracking down the people that will run certain business sectors for the last 2 months. And I've had long-term conversations with people that I respect. I'm calling it the Avengers company. These are all people that are amazing at what they do. Instead of asking them how much they want to make, I'm asking them what they want, meaning, what do you want out of life? And guess what? None of them have mentioned money. Mm-hmm. And so when you're a boss and you're hiring, make sure that you're asking the right questions to your employee to identify what they are seeking from the opportunity, because it might not always be money.
I'll tell you this. This is maybe a really interesting metric for hiring. And this isn't going to be for every position. Again, when I'm talking about my manufacturing company and people working on the sander all day, sanding widgets, asking them this question isn't going to be super helpful in the grand scheme. They're probably going to answer with money. But generally, as you move up that scale and to higher levels of talent that are taking on more responsibility within your company, which is generally the hires that you want to make in the early days, you need to be bringing on superstars that can bring back 100x off of the investment that you put into hiring them. And usually when you ask somebody, what do they want? If they answer just in terms of money, it's because they haven't given it very deep thought, which for me isn't the type of person I like to be around. I'm a big proponent of self-awareness and a lot of self-reflection. And if somebody just answers straight up, like, I want to make X dollars, and that's the thing that's important to them, it tells me that they probably haven't spent as much time on the introspection as I would find intriguing to be around all day. And at the end of the day, that's what work is. Like, we're going to be around each other all the time. I want to really jive with you, like emotionally, philosophically, and intellectually. And if we don't have that, then it's going to create a weird work environment where neither of us is too excited to be around the other all day.
Dude, what I do with people, if you're looking to maybe bring on an assistant or somebody to help you out, a VA, whatever you say, this is a tactic that I learned from somebody else that I think is very valuable. I want you to spend a week. They call it the sticky note thing. So write down everything that you do all day for 7 days or 14 days. Take those items, put it in a spreadsheet. I want you to go down each item, and I want you to put a dollar amount next to it. Anything that is below what you're worth or what you think you're valued at per hour, you outsource to somebody else.
I literally don't do anything anymore because I value myself too highly.
There you go. I mean,
one of the and also here's something else that I think maybe people don't address enough when it comes to employees is they don't know generally what it looks like to win their job every single day. Like what does at the end of each day, what would it look like if they won their job for the day? And most people, if you were to think about it, it was like, this is each day, Monday, this is a game. Tuesday, this is a game. What would it look like to win that game at the end of the day? Most employees don't know what that actually looks like. And so they have nothing to play for. They're just going through the motions and they're trying to get to the end of the week, but they don't ever really get the sense of like, I won that day. And so what I find really helpful is when new hires come in to really lay out, here are the rules of the game. If you want to win at your job each day, this is what that looks like. And so if you can get to the end of the day right before you leave, whenever that is, because I don't have like time limits, I expect people to work. Like whenever that is, if at the end of it all, you look back and you're like, I did these things, therefore I won the day. Awesome. They get that dopamine rush and like feeling of success and progress, which is the reason most employees are dissatisfied in their work. It's not because they're not making enough money or because they don't like the job itself. It's because they don't feel any sense of progress. They just feel like they're on a hamster wheel. You can only be on the hamster wheel for so long before you just throw your hands up and be like, what's the point of it all? So give people a sense of like, this is how you progress and what that feels like so that they can judge it for themselves. And it doesn't require you every day coming in and giving them an attagirl or attaboy and being like, you did it, you won the day. They need to know it for themselves. Like, I did it today.
So powerful, because ultimately at the end of the day, you have to support the wins. You have to give feedback when needed, and then you have to give them the space in order for them to grow into something that maybe even greater than you can even imagine. Right. And I think that, I'll leave you with this. There's a guy named David Osborne who has 86 revenue streams out of Austin, and they'll interview for 2 months. And the reason is he says, I'm hiring this guy to make me $1 million, because if he makes me $1 million, I'm going to make 10. And so that's the only type of guy I'm looking for. Right. And I think when you're starting to play in those games, you see how serious they take it. And you really like this is my coaching clients have personality tests, and you really need to get to the root of what motivates somebody and then address them in that, and not think that your motivations are their motivations. And you really
that's a huge one.
Yeah.
God, that's a huge one. This one's hard too, right? Because I spend all my time pretty much talking about entrepreneurship and real estate investing. And the people that are coming to work for me typically aren't super interested in being entrepreneurs, right? Like that's not the thing that motivates them. That's cool. What I want them to do is I want them to think like an entrepreneur, because I think that's where really the power is. I don't care if they actually go and start a business. I don't actually think everybody should own a business. I think in a perfect world they would. But really, I want everybody to think like an entrepreneur, because the 100% accountability, the responsibility, the problem solving, the empathy, the emotional stability of the riding the ups and the downs, I think those are all traits that, regardless of whether you're an accountant in a really big firm or you're a lunch lady, like those are all traits that I think will improve the overall quality of somebody's life if they were to manifest.
Couldn't agree more. When you look at what's going on outside of us and everything that's happened in the last 2 years, I look at an entrepreneur's life and I go, this is just about a Tuesday for them.
Yeah.
And so guys, our homework is that create a framework where you can allow your employees as they scale up to make mistakes, but allow them to execute on what they're doing and allow them to grow in to who they need to become in order to support you as an employer and as your team or your company. And I guarantee you that you will thank yourself later by taking the time and getting yourself out of things that you shouldn't be doing in the first place.
I'm going to give you guys some an opportunity for extra credit this week. So if you're listening to this and you've been thinking, maybe I need to hire, maybe I'm not ready, and you're on that fence, you're unsure, remember this, it's always scary. It's always scary. Even when you're running in the black and you can afford to bring on more people, it's still always scary. But there's only ever 2 times to hire. You either do it too soon or you do it too late. There's nobody's ever done it at the perfect moment. And so if you do it too soon, you're going to come out of pocket on that. So make sure that you can justify that expense and that they're going to earn back their keep. But I think it's better to do that than to wait too long, because the opportunity cost of waiting too long is far, far, far greater than whatever their income is going to be. And remember, like, people, I think, get really scared. Here's the thing. If you want to go and hire somebody and they're like, oh, I'm going to have to pay them $80,000 a year. Well, you don't need to have all $80,000 in the bank right now, right? Like, what's 80,000 divided by 12? That's what, $6,600. So that's what you need to get to justify having them each month. And so start there, break it down. If you're on the fence about maybe I'm not ready to hire, I challenge you this week, go hire. Pull the trigger.
Guys, make sure you send this out to your friend, rate us and review us, and we'll see you next time.
Adios.
Thanks for joining us here at The Brain Dump. Now, before you go, it's important to solidify what you've learned here today by taking action. If all you do is listen, then you're only going to retain a small amount of the information you consumed here today. So take a quick moment to really lock in any key insights, tidbits, or pieces of wisdom that you want to carry with you into the future. You can do this by heading over to iTunes and leaving a review with your top 3 takeaways from this episode. If you've already left a review, first, thank you so much. Second, it's time to start a brain dump journal. It doesn't have to be fancy, just a slip of paper will do, where you can record a couple quick thoughts from each episode. Science shows this is one of the best ways to ensure long-term retention of new information. And finally, if you've got a brother, a sister, a coworker, or a best friend that you think would benefit from this episode, do them and us a favor and share with them this episode. Your support, as always, means the world to us.